Hey everyone, this is Chad again. Like I promised, I'm going to go ahead and start showing you guys how to do the step-by-step process of doing the 93 to 95 Jeep Grand Cherokee NV3500 swap. 96 to 8 is a little bit different just because they have a different transmission crossmember and a few different things to take apart. And the clutch master cylinder hole in the firewall isn't actually present. So for them, they would have to drill the holes, whereas for 93 to 5, the hole is already actually there. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. All right. So for starters, let's go ahead and we'll start under the hood. So the first thing you're going to want to take out is going to be your washer pump, your washer reservoir. That's held in with two 10mm bolts. And then down below, you have two little pumps, one right there and one right there. There's two connections and two rubber hoses for your squirters. I've already gone ahead and gotten these undone. So let's go ahead and remove that. I'm just going to go ahead and set this on the back seat for right now. Also make sure it does not leak, because the squirters do leak, so make sure they don't leak. Next, we come back under the hood. You can see that now we've got access to that plate right here I was telling you all about. So if you unbolt this is two 13mm bolts or nuts, and to undo these, then you can then pop this plate off from the inside. It is glued to the firewall, but if you just knock it with a screwdriver, it'll pop right off. I have already gone ahead and loosened the nuts on this. So as you all can see, you just take them off. You just push out the back plate, and there we go. Now you've got the actual access hole for the clutch, which will bolt right here. And then if we go ahead and turn our attention to the interior, we will start by retrieving that that bracket that came off in here. Let me see if I can find it real quick. You gotta reach your hand up in here a little bit. And I've already got my dash apart for other reasons. I had an issue with my directional motor for the air direction for the climate control, so the motor just burned out and it wouldn't actually change it from like defrost to floor or to dash. So that explains that. But in the end, you're going to want to disassemble your lower dashboard. So you want to take off this quarter panel and the undercolumn panel. And that'll expose all this area for you for later when we go to remove the brake and pedal assembly. And then next, what you're all going to want to go ahead and do is we need to remove the center console. So since we're going to be working on the interior for a little helpful hint, because the dome lights stay on all the time, is if you go ahead on the side that you're working on, pull out the little door switch for the dome lights. Just give it a little bit of a wiggle and it'll pop out here in a second. There we go. And if you just wiggle the connector, bear with me here, I gotta use two hands. There we go. Now you can see that it's disconnected and the dome lights are off. So just put that in your center console there. Tuck the wire back into the door jamb so that way it doesn't get pinched. And then what you're going to go ahead and do now is, first you're going to just turn the key to the first position, move the shifter to the first position here just by clicking it back, and then once you have that all set up, you are then going to lift up. You're going to squeeze this in and you're going to pull hard, but this will lift right off. That's your shift knob for the automatic. And then next, what you're going to do is you're going to want to pull off this plate, which should just pop right off. There we go. That's off. And then you will have 4 Phillips screws holding this in for the front end of the console. Remove those screws, which I've already gone ahead and done. And then you're going to want to remove the 4x4 shift indicator plates. So that comes off. You will then have 2 screws at the bottom of this console. Undo the back 2 screws. Once you have that done, pull your brake all the way out and pull out the bottom section of the console here. This just pops out, but be careful, it can break. I've had these happen to break a lot of times, that's how I know. And then on that note, I would suggest you pull your transfer case forward into a gear. And then from here on out, what you can end up doing is you can actually just lean the console back. So if you just lean it back like that, it will come right off. It'll lift right off like that. And then what you're going to want to do is just take the console, put it on your back seats, get it out of the way. So just like mine right there, it's out of the way. Just put your transfer case back into gear. And then the next thing you're going to want to do is you have the center console support bracket here. It's held on with 4, each corner where you got those screws, it has 4 8mm bolts. That's going to just lift off after you got that out. Just set that aside. To give yourself some more working room, what you're going to want to do is remove the center dash piece that holds everything together. And you got 2 screws in the upper top above the radio, 2 screws above your VIC information center, and then 2 screws behind the ashtray. And like I said, I've already got my dash apart because I've been doing some other work regarding my climate control directional problem, so just bear with me. But essentially what you're going to do is it'll pop right off. And you just set all of that to the side. And now that exposes this whole thing here. So for your shifter, I've already started this, but normally this is your actual shift cable that goes down to the transmission. That's going to be in this first slot here, and it connects to this upper ball here on the shifter. It just pops right off. And then the same goes for this other gray cable. This goes to your ignition key in the column to tell your steering wheel when your car is in gear not to be able to pull the key out. So just pop both of those off out of their homes, and you're going to have 4 nuts that hold that shifter on, and those are going to come out to be, I believe, those are going to be 4 13mm bolts or nuts. So you take those off, and then your shifter will then come off. So that frees up all that space right there. So now at this point that we've got all of this exposed, the next thing that's going to need to happen is we're going to need to remove this plate here, detach the shift lever down underneath from the transfer case to free up this lever, and then there are several 8mm bolts around this actual plate on the floor that need to come out to remove it. But in order to do that, we need to first remove the front of the carpet. So the best way to honestly do that is if we untuck the carpet from both corners and pull it back, so that way you don't actually, most people will cut the carpet here, but I don't want to cut my carpet because it never goes back nicely the same way. So that's what we are going to do. But before we get to that, let's go ahead and get to putting in our pedal assembly down below. So here's our brake pedal, and it is held on with 4 13mm nuts to the brake booster in the back. I know it's a little hard to see. I don't have any lights. Let me get a flashlight so you all can see. But you can see them up there. There's the bottom end. So give me just a moment and I'll be right back, and we'll go ahead and get that assembly out. So give me just a moment. I'll be right back, guys.